Remember, all this recording and all previous recordings are in our YouTube channel. And Donna, if you could go ahead and put that link to our YouTube channel. All our free webinars are there for you to look at. All of the Monday Lunch and Learn, Talent Search and EOC sessions that were recorded are listed there as well. Also have a Google Drive to the resources that we share during this. So I upload things there as well. Not to be confused with if you have attended our grant writing workshops, we have a separate way to communicate. And so that's another benefit if you have gone ahead and purchased or attended our workshops through your institution or agency through institutional rate registration, then you have access to that. You should have already received an email. If you have not received an email to join our Talent Search and EOC proposal writing group, that's I hate to say closed group, but it is. It's not out there like our other group is wide open. Please go ahead and check out the links or look for your email, or you could email Donna to see, I didn't receive my invitation. We get so many emails that could have been missed. But keep in mind that we also have our list, our open forum, I believe, for anybody, even if you're not attending, you didn't pay for a grant writing workshop or are a client, that's under groups here on our website. I think I'm still sharing that, right? And so you can see our group. So we have our open group, and Donna, correct me, the open group, the general trio questions, and for any general, and then for each trio program is free to join, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The only ones that require, invitation or whatever are the talent search competition and the EOC competition groups.
Okay, thanks, Donna. So if you have a question, like someone asked, I didn't download or I don't have access to my Excel spreadsheet. And, this must be about Veterans Upward Bound, but just in general, pictures, if you want to post, thank you. We'll love posting that, carryover. So general questions, and then if you got specific, well, here's the competition, so we've got that restricted. But there's other you can post if you want to signify, for the SSS group, okay? So this is open, please utilize it. We're checking it. Of course, we've got the closed ones just for the competition. So we have another poll going on just to get the questions going. What section of the proposal has been the most challenging so far, okay? And there's no right or wrong answer, it's just your preference, okay? So we're looking to see, we've got some folks still pending, got a couple of more, okay, that's pretty good. So yeah, the need section, to me, it's the need section. The one that makes me the most nervous as a writer is the objective section, believe it or not. Not that it's difficult to write, but it's when I set that percentage for the grant, ambitious yet attainable, that number, I go in there and I put in a number, and then I always come back and I tweak it. The following week, or the following day, I may sleep on it, come back and say, no, that's way too high, and then put it down a little lower. Then I could go back and change it. I drive my clients crazy and I tell them, I'm sorry, but I'm just going back and forth, back and forth. This is my final answer. And if it were my proposal, my job on the line, my staff's job on the line, the project on the line, this is what I would do. But thanks for letting me go back and forth with my objective setting demons to see what percentage. And it's always a gamble, waiting to get feedback from the SSS competition to see if the way our methodology is to what, method to our madness as to how we set the objectives, if the math there worked. So I can share that with you all as soon as we get some feedback. I'm hoping it worked out and we didn't lose any points, or if we did, it makes sense why we lost them. Maybe the baseline was too low, but I'll fill you in. So the need, second place is, objectives and, well, objective. The budget to me is the plan of operation. The good news is unless there's a really radical or different CPP, and I don't think I know they won't have time to do reauthorization to change the questions, so to speak. Good thing in the TRIO programs, they usually don't look for anything innovative, except maybe with the CPPs, and those usually are separate. So I don't worry too much about the plan of operation. In fact, I kind of look forward to revamping, and I just worked on one over the weekend, and I thought, oh, I'll just make some few changes from last time, right? oh no, I reworked that thing. A lot of things have happened in the last 5 years, and things that I thought would be important to mention 5 years ago now are replaced with other things that I want to mention. Yeah, but that's kind of a fun thing also, the plan of operation for both Talent Search and EOC, because that gives you a chance, actually, it's perfect timing, because that question about the plan to identify, recruit, and select, the plan to assess the needs, and the plan to provide services, that's 75% of your actual, programming and your policies and procedures manual. So as some of you all are using this summer, not only to write, but also to update things for next year, start creating your policies, procedures. Where do you start? Start with those 3 questions in your plan of operation: the plan to identify, recruit, and select, the plan to assess the needs, and the plan to deliver services. Start updating those as though for real what you're going to implement next year. And then what you could do is get a summary of that, create an outline or a summary of all the detail you put in, as though you're going to talk to your staff about how we're going to do this next year or collaborate on it. What you want to do then is use that detail that you can use for your policies, procedures manual, and actual planning, and deconstruct it or create an outline to put into your proposal that'll fit. Okay, so that's one way to think about it. So how many things have you accomplished there? Besides, initially you were like, oh, let me write this plan of operation, but then you were able to update, kind of forces you to update your policies, procedures manual and put more detail there, actual timelines, links to workshops and calendars, and then you can come back and summarize it for the plan of operation in the proposal. Okay, so got that? Share those results. And yes, the needs section, that's why we always start with the budget and the needs section. The budget, you should now, I'll bet you money. Yes, please start putting your questions in the Q&A. I bet you money that we will be level funding. All right, we will be at level funding. So whatever you're getting right now to serve the number of students, your clients and students you're serving right now, that's what you should plan on your first year budget to match. So with so little money, it should take you 30 minutes to do that budget in Excel. All right. And you have to assume that you'll have staff for the whole year. Don't forget carryover. So it's whatever the base amount is without any carryover, because you won't have the carryover. And so there's not, if you was a multi-million-dollar budget, then I could see how it might take us a while. But you need to do that budget, and I would recommend that you do it for 5 years out with salaries anticipated, whatever mandated salaries you think your college or agency will I want to say, require. And then you want to probably calculate a 10 to 15% increase, probably 15% increase in all your fringe overall, so that you can see where the money, if there's no carryover, which there shouldn't be, right? If everything's perfect, but there will be. Start alerting yourself and your institution or agency. Look, if everyone stays on board, we're going to start running out of money the beginning of year 2 in these areas. Okay, now in the proposal, right now they say in the instructions to talk about just the first year. All right. Just like we help students and clients go to college, where the emphasis on the first year, and then you're like, oh no, a lot of those scholarships weren't for continuation scholarships. So now it starts all over again, right? Well, we just have to get past the readers the first year, but I want you, and having been a former director also, I want a plan and just let everyone know, look, this could possibly happen. I may need some cash, or I may need some strong in-kind commitment in these certain areas, because if everything goes well, meaning we keep everybody on board, these are the potential shortfalls in the budget, because even if we got a little bit of an increase every year, which I don't think we will get, we will never be able to keep up with the increase in fringe and salaries that are mandated through our institution and our agencies. Okay, so keep that in mind. So do the budget first, put that away, work on it, let people know, hey, this is what's going to happen. So here we have a question. It's for EOC. Can we use college persistence data from our local college to show need for EOC? Well, that's a great question. Obviously, this is someone who's based out of a college. In the needs section for EOC, because it's a pre-college program. And the focus is on those objectives, you know, on how many students that are dropout students initially, or high school dropouts, not only get into a GED program or back to high school, but actually graduate with a diploma or a GED. That's the first objective. Then the other, we call those objectives for non-college ready. Then the other three objectives for college ready, which could be a 12th grader or somebody who's in GED program fixing to graduate, as we say here in Texas, fixing to. And that's about how many apply for admissions, financial aid, and go to college. Now, you can always mention perhaps as maybe in the needs section, number one, this would not be a focus of getting this data to show any kind of baseline for any of those objectives I just mentioned for EOC. Possibly for Talent Search, all right, because they do have a college attainment degree objective, and you could say, well, persistence, you know, there's a need for it in this, assuming that you tell the reader that most of the students at your college come from the target area high schools. So it's a very general kind of statement. It might be helpful there. And I'm not saying it wouldn't be helpful to show need in EOC, but it probably would be in one of the questions where it says other issues or barriers or issues in the target area that show a need. So I might, if I could show that the persistence rate is low for students from the target area, perhaps that might be something I can throw in there. But just to say that the college overall has a low persistence rate wouldn't be necessarily as helpful to the EOC needs section as it would be if we were working on SSS, okay? Because EOC is really about the community more so than talent searches. So all your data usually comes from the community census and the community resources. Very few from your college institutional research, okay? But great question. Let's see, do we have any other questions? Come on, y'all, you can always ask anonymously, you know, in the Q&A. In the chat, you know, people usually go to the chat, but then, yeah, your name's on there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. But anyway, go ahead and post your questions. And you can ask anonymously. Be anonymous. That's cool. Because I'll just keep rattling off, you know, until I see another question. This time's for y'all. All right, so what about, Donna, do we have another poll? I don't know if you have time to do another poll about, there you go. How many of y'all are using your previous funded application as a base versus starting fresh? It's a great question. Okay. And I'll tell you what I do. Okay. Yep. You know, I mean, why not, right? But this is what I do. So I get the 2021 version for both EOC and Talent Search. And hopefully I have, and this is, oh, Don, I just could, you know, I have been dealing with this with Gear Up because Gear Up's doing something crazy, a resubmission, because they told, for Gear Up, y'all, FYI, I don't know if you heard, but we're having to ditch all the CPPs. So anytime we talked about the CPPs within our narrative or separate, because it used to be combined, so it was a little easier this time because it was separate in Europe. We're having to go through there, and they're giving us 2 weeks to take those out. So very interesting, right? So I'm going to find out how this impacts, you know, future competitions. But anyway, what I was telling you, Don, is I'm working on a Gear Up, and I asked the client to send me the latest Word version of their complete talent search proposal, for example, or a Gear Up proposal before they converted it to PDF. And I think what I got instead was the PDF converted to Word sent to me, and it was a nightmare with the formatting. So I urge you, please look, if you can't find the original final Word version of your proposal, you know, the one that went back and forth tweaking, you know, going through it before you convert it into PDF all merged together, right? Please find that version, or moving ahead, save that and put it in a safe place, because you're going to need it in the future when you want to use that last Word version. Because if you use the PDF converted to Word, it's a hot mess, and you will have to start all over again with your narrative. I mean, you can copy and paste the content, but, you know, save yourself some grief, right? I want you to take the 2021 submitted Word version and deconstruct it. put it into, take the needs section, put it into a new Word document called needs section, needs to be updated for 2026. The objective section, so you end up with what, 7 sections under the folder of 2026 draft narrative. And then you start updating that, okay? If you're starting fresh, that's fine. I mean, I've had to do that too when the document's just not even, I can copy, paste. If you're starting fresh in the Google Drive, I believe, Donna, we might have, I don't know if we made that available, but we might go ahead and do that. The empty Word documents, files that have need for the project, objectives, and what you can do if you want to start fresh, use our separated blank 7 Word documents to just start copy and pasting things that you want to bring over from your last proposal or what you saw or thinking about doing, and copy and paste it now and just throw it in there. Don't worry about it, how it looks. Just start putting narrative there if you're wanting to start over fresh. If you want to use your old proposal, I urge you to find the Word version and deconstruct it and go through line by line. And I would recommend that you, I think, again, I can't remember all these Google Drives, Donna, keep me, I believe we uploaded a document that said, here are some common terms that you might want to look at that maybe were in the old proposal that you want to reword or remove. And that's what I'm doing right now with the Gear Up proposals. And they told us to do that as well. And they actually, what I'll do, I'll upload what Gear Up's good, man. I love how the information they send out. I use a lot of their stuff. As you can see, if you follow our post or blog posts, a lot of the government relations stuff I get are from Gear Up. But their Gear Up came up with, they call it trigger words. And I will upload that so you can go through line by line in your proposal. And luckily with the ones that we wrote, we didn't have to do too many changes, except in previous competitions, we were encouraged to use certain language. So we put that in, but I found that it might be busy work, but it's not really difficult to revise. Also, you can use different platforms like AI to take that sentence and put it to AI and say, could you please, and upload the trigger word document and then that other document that we have in Google Drive that we came up with, because we did this for another client. We went through all their proposals. Gosh, at least, how many did we do, Don? Did we do about 20 or more? I think, yeah, 20 proposals we went through, not just trio. Most of them were trio, but we went through and did that. So we kind of learned from that experience. So you could upload those into ChatGPT, for example, start a project and take sentence by sentence or section by section or paragraph by paragraph. I wouldn't recommend putting the whole thing. It can't handle that just yet. And asking for it to look for the trigger words that you indicated and provide examples on how to reword. Okay. So that's that's been very, very helpful because, it's time consuming and it keeps the meaning, the new intent or the new focus. And you can spend your time then on, other things that, typically, I get stuck on how do I reword this? What, if I can't say this, what should I say instead? And that way I can look at it and say, yeah, that still keeps the meaning. It's still what I meant to say, just without those words that might be a trigger. Okay, so I'll make sure to put those on there. So most of y'all are starting from your existing proposal. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for chiming in on that. All right, so let me see. Oh, we have some questions here. Have you ever worked with an EOC that lowered its participant goal in the next cycle? I understand there could be a budget cut, but the goal is too high for the population loss in our area. Yes, I have. And that's very common for EOCs to, for example, well, right now we're getting 1,000, we have to serve 1,000 clients for this budget. If you want to bring it down to 850, I wouldn't, you could even go lower than that. But yes, there's a cost for participants. So right now what you have to do is take, and Talent Search too. I've seen it happen before in Talent Search. You take your total amount of money you're getting right now, divided by the total number of participants that you must serve. Okay, divide that and you'll get a cost per participant. So if you want to reduce your numbers, then you multiply that cost per participant by the number of clients or participants you want to go down by, and that becomes your new budget. All right, that becomes your new budget. And for some EOCs, it's appropriate to do that because of the population loss, okay? I don't, and it's usually, we'll double check when the new RFP comes out, the program application comes out, it does address it in detail. You can look in the 2021 version of the program application, which is in the Google Drive, the old application. So you want to check that out and see how it's worded there and test it out and work your budget on that. But that's an excellent question. You might have to do that, but yes, you can go down in your numbers, but you'll lose budget, right? Because it's cost per participant. You want to go down, fine. You're going to go down, but we're going to, reduce your budget as well. What you can't do in either program, interestingly enough, is ask to serve more people and more money. Okay, but you can certainly, it's been addressed before. Someone said, do you have to have support letters from all your schools to receive all your points? 2 of our target schools are going through administrative transition. Okay, very interesting question, and very timely, right? You do in your proposal. Now, this is the way it should be. In the proposal, you want to be very, very careful to ensure that you state that you will have, not will, I'm sorry, let me clarify, that you all have letters of support on file right now from your college president or agency president or board of directors, okay, for the applicant, who's applying, the college or the agency. And you want to make sure if you're a college that you say that you have on file, not will, because that's where I lost points, that you have on file letters of commitment from all your target schools. It could be the superintendent or it could be the principal, all right? Or a combination, superintendent and principal. So to answer this question, and also if you're an agency, yes, you do have to also, I would strongly recommend as a reader, I would take a point off if you don't make that statement that you have letters of support or commitment or MOUs right now from your college president, your president of the board of directors, and from your target schools, or in either superintendents or principals, okay, on file right now, okay? I would take a point away if you didn't say that. Now, if you say that, then you better get the letters of commitment or MOUs. MOUs will work. And do you put them with the proposal? No, they say, no, don't send them in, have them on file. So the idea is, the intent is that you're getting them right now, letters of commitment, MOUs, and let's say in this case, it's a combination. With some of my schools, I can get it from the principal, great. But on those other 2 schools that are going through administrative transition, you better get an MOU from the school district or the superintendent, and that's fine. But they got to be covered. Why? Because you want to be able to state to get full points and not lose points from a reader like me, because it's going to be so competitive, that you didn't say that statement, that the project or the institution or agency has letters of commitments on file for all these, what I just mentioned. You state that, then in a compliance assessment, that's the 3rd thing we ask to see is your letters of commitment or MOU. And not a lot of people, we've been doing this, for the last year, a couple of years now, but that's usually one of the things people are missing, or they can't find the letters. I said, look, it's just me doing a mock compliance assessment, but they're going to ask for them. So if you said, and you had to say it to get full points, and I strongly recommend you say it moving forward, then we better right now, we have time to get one set up. Let's go ahead and start getting them or find them, and we'll put today's date on it. We won't backdate it. We'll say, well, we have them now, but right now is the best time to see if you have the existing ones for the grant that you're currently on while you're trying to get the new ones. So you can do a combination. Okay, so MOUs will work. So on those 2 schools that are going through administrative transition, go through the school district or somebody above there that can speak or, for that, assigned for that school. One quick word, if you're a community agency for talent search, then you need to get letters of commitment from colleges. If you're a college submitting for talent search and that last part of the applicant community support, you need to have commitments from community agencies. See the difference? There's a little bit of a difference there. So yes, Cindy, the district MOUs will work as well. You just need to make sure they're updated, and those don't happen overnight. So, I'm thinking about changing the order that we tell people to work on stuff, or when we cover it in a grant writing workshop, because we usually start with an overview and mindset, and then we talk about the budget. I think third, we're gonna before we talk about need, I'm gonna remind people, hey, your applicant and community support section, most of it is out of your hands. I mean, you could make something up, but then you got to be able to deliver, and I don't recommend that at all. So that takes, asking people, going back and forth. Some of our school districts last year was great that the principal could give me a letter. Now they're like, oh, can't sign anything. You're gonna have to go through the district level, do an MOU. They have to have a board, it has to come through a board meeting, be on their agenda. I mean, we're hearing some stuff that back in the day, I would have been like, what? It's not that easy anymore. So you can't wait to do it just because it's lower on the list of the sections of the proposal to start that late. That needs to have started already. I mean, for a lot of us, it's going to be difficult to get things from the schools right now this summer. So, you don't want to put in a situation where you're bugging them in the fall. So hopefully you've started that process to do that. Okay. So that answered that. And remind me again when we complete and upload the GEPA. The GEPA is one of the forms you could work on it now. Go ahead and go into the Google Drive, and there's a folder on GEPA. We uploaded a sample Gear Up one, which, by the way, I think I'm having to review and tweak just in case it has language that I haven't checked it yet, but at least you get the idea of what the new GEPA form looks like. You can answer the first question that's on the new GEPA form pretty much is what used to be on our standard generic GEPA form that the agency and the institution used for any Department of Ed funding. But the questions 2, 3, and 4 in the new GEPA statement are ones that relate directly to your proposal. So let me clarify something. So you definitely want to work on the GEPA once you have all your draft sections completed of the proposal. And possibly after when the RFP with a grant application comes out, because that will force you to find out what the CPPs are, and then that would let you know where to put them, if anywhere, within the narrative. Okay, and then you want to work on the GEPA, but you can work on all the other federal forms ahead of time. The GEPA is the only one that's really has changed, but I wouldn't work on that until you have your plan of operation solidified, because there's some of the content or narrative in the plan of operation will have to go into the GEPA. Okay, just some of it. But check that out, and there's also a training video, and check out the templates that we have. Okay. All right. So do you have a template we can use for letters of commitment for EOC? Don, I believe we do in the Google Drive. Can you check? I believe under letters of commitment, I do think we have those letters there. If not, let me know. I know I need to upload the Gear Up.
Yes, you have letters of commitment there for EOC and Talent Search.
Okay, thank you so much. I thought so, but I can't remember anything. We've got so many drives going on. So thanks, Don. I have to keep bugging you a bunch. So someone is asking, how detailed do we have to be about identifying our target area by zip code or census tract? So in the proposal, you don't have to give the reader the zip codes in the census tract, but you definitely want to be detailed on the spreadsheet where what you're utilizing or should be utilizing to collect the data. Definitely on both grants, we have questions in the needs section that are asking for the number of low-income families residing in the target area and the number of individuals that do not have the number percentage of individuals that do not have a bachelor's degree. Those tend to be the two main ones that you find both in Talent Search and EOC. So you will have to be very specific about zip codes and census tracts for your target area. When you let's look at the first, if you plan on maintaining the same, if your intent and your wish is to keep the same target area as you had in your existing proposal, then go back and look at the very first paragraph in your 2021 narrative in the needs section. What should have been in the very first paragraph is a brief description about your target area to the reader. And that's not when you spell out, you know, the zip codes and all that stuff. They're talking about, is it the city of Dallas? You know, hopefully it's not the whole city, because you could never show need if, even if you wanted to serve the whole city. In my case, in Fort Worth, it was, you know, we had 3 talent searches, and each one worked with a different neighborhood. So on one of them, and again, for those of you submitting for the multiple talent search programs or ERCs, you know, you can do that as long as they're different areas. Heck, we were in the same city, but one of them was for North Side, one was for South Side, one was for East Side. And so I said the target area of this talent search proposal or grant, the target area is the North Side of inner city Fort Worth. And I talked about that, and you know, and how many the population of the north side of Fort Worth, and within the north side of Fort Worth were our target schools, our 2 target schools. Okay, so everything was about the north side of Fort Worth. That would be the 1 target area, and the rest of the narrative, I just said target area because I'd already identified it earlier. Some of y'all may be serving 3 or 4 counties. You could say the 1 target area. We all have 1 target area, okay? When we go to explain it to the reader and the rest of the tables, it's 1 target area. Even though in the first paragraph, and you could put by zip code. I mean, they're not going to look at it, but you know, this is the following zip codes in parentheses if you want to, but it's really about, you know, we're serving the 1 target area is made up of 3 counties or 4 counties located in Northwest Nebraska, you know, in a rural area, 3 hours away from a major city, to give them, paint a picture. You know, now on my spreadsheet, I probably had it broken down for the 3 sub areas or counties. And within the county, maybe I put the zip codes and the census tract. So internally, my spreadsheet was very, very detailed. And I believe, Don, I'm going to bug you again. I think we do have a spreadsheet in there, I think, up there, a sample spreadsheet where folks can at least pull the census data. But it all depends on your target area. But when it's all said and done, we all have 1 target area, and you don't want to put the reader through, you know, if you end up having 4 or 5 or 10 counties, or 6 or 7 or 8 or 15 zip codes or census tracts. You don't want to list that all out for the reader. You want to combine it on the spreadsheet, and it's 1 target area, because you already told the reader in the first paragraph, hey, my 1 target area is made up of the following. What are the ingredients? What's the description or definition of your 1 target area? Okay, so hopefully that helps. So yes, internally, and you try to simplify it as much as you can for the reader to make it 1 target area. But yes, you'll have to do that. Okay, let's see here. Any other questions? Let me know, thumbs up if this is being helpful, okay? Because if no one asks any questions, then, you know, I can stop doing this. Okay, so is it risky to list aggressive objectives if we're aiming to scale? Thank you. Okay, I'm like begging for kudos here. Like, I'm like, is anyone out there? Is it risky to list aggressive objectives if we're aiming to scale up our program? Great question. So I guess they mean risky objectives. I mean, aggressive objectives, like, I'm assuming you mean like, oh, I'm gonna go up, you know, from the baseline, you know, I want to go from 20 to like 50, you know, because I want to show them we're gonna, you know, we're scaling up the program. I would say yes, that is risky. That is risky. Because it's always about your baseline. So this question, if I would ask probably 4 questions in order to give this person the right answer. So if this was my client, I would say, okay, which objective are we talking about? Okay, because some objectives on their own are more rigorous or harder to achieve than some other objective, right? Would you not agree that it's probably harder or more rigorous to help to you know, the objective on somebody graduating from college within 6 years than if they came back for another year of high school, right? So just alone, one of them is more rigorous. So let's talk about that. The second thing is, what's the baseline? What do you mean? Well, the baseline, have you collected data on, okay, you're showing me how high you want to go, but you need to show me first where you're starting from. So no one on here can even talk about, this is what I want to set as my objective moving forward, if you haven't first collected the data, the baseline data, okay? So I know people say, well, I know I did our APR and we're thinking about, we want to improve upon our APR. Hey, that's great. That could be an internal goal for y'all to always improve upon your APR. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to say that you're basing your percentages, or even think about basing your percentages in the proposal on what you've done with folks you've already worked with, which is on the APR. Because the baseline is all about people you haven't worked with. So see, it's apples, it's not the same, it's not apples and apples. And sometimes that's tough because we're asking you to set objectives, that you hope to accomplish in the future. So again, scaling up the program may be discussed in your evaluation plan, where you have an internal goal to always improve upon annually upon the previous APR's accomplishments, totally fine. But what you don't want to do is use that or scale up in your objective section, unless, again, it's all about the math. My first question is, which objective are we talking about? What's your baseline? And then I would recommend, from what you're telling me, and when I'm looking at your budget, and everyone's part-time, or you only got one full-time person, which could be an issue, that might be a little bit too ambitious. And I would recommend, again, depending on the baseline, we talk about a 10 to possibly 15, no more than 20 percentage point, and it depends on where you're starting from, so it's a big depend, increase, percentage point, not percentage point, okay? There's a difference there, okay? So yes, it would be risky to say you're scaling up in the objective section. I would not recommend that. My EOC program works closely with our adult education department. Would you suggest to get a letter of commitment from that department? Definitely. Definitely, because I've yet to run into an EOC that can afford to do their own GED or adult education training, tutoring, or instruction. So definitely you want to go there big time. And you want to talk about how y'all collaborate and go into detail. In the plan of operation, there's a place where you talk about how you will collaborate with other departments or agencies on campus or in the community, big time. And then you also definitely want to include them in the applicant and community support section when you talk about the applicant, the university, and you want to make sure they're mentioned. Okay, so they get two mentions in the plan of operation and also in the applicant and community support. So definitely that would be a big, because you can't do it by yourself, and you're not supposed to. I mean, there's no way. How could you, if we have no money in EOC, you'd have to be giving up a whole bunch of staff to make it happen. So you will have to collaborate and get someone else to do the actual instruction, the actual GED prep. You all can serve as facilitators. Y'all can say that you get them, you find students that need the service, you connect them to either your agency or your community's GED centers or services or someplace else, depending on their location, and then you track them. And you could provide, people say, well, if I can't actually do the college, the GED prep and instruction, what else? Oh, you could do career advising, you could do financial literacy with them. You could also talk about going to college with them, college information. Heck, with some of them, they might be pretty close to graduating. You could take it to the next step and get them to apply for admissions and financial aid. Some of them, it may be next year when they come back, or and 15 months later, 16 months later when they actually graduate. So a lot of those folks, keep tabs on them. Just because they don't get their GED during the first year you worked with them, bring them back, especially if they continued. Okay. So yeah, it's very difficult to do that. Let's see, we have another question. How do we explain why we didn't meet certain objectives from our last funding cycle? Great question. Well, you know what? You don't have to explain that, because the readers don't know your history. Okay. So some people are like, well, I want them to know our history. We've met all objectives, all the time. We really don't want to hear that as a reader either. In fact, sometimes it's, we're harder on the existing programs. So if y'all say we've been here for 40 years, been here for 50 years, been here for 25 years, I wouldn't hide it, because you can't hide it, because I'll know how old y'all are, or if your existing program's coming back when I read the first line of your abstract. because the money's going to be different, and that probably the numbers of students you're asking for, unless you've, asked for a reduction. So I already know, but don't use that as a reason why, or bring it up all the time, like, oh, legacy, we should just have you refunded because you've been there for so long. In fact, one could question, well, things are that bad and you've still been there that long? Okay, so it could work both ways, but here, the good thing about it is, they don't know. The readers will not have access to your prior experience points. Okay, the current ones or the previous funding cycle. So don't go there. No reason to bring up anything that's happened in the past. Your program officer, after the readers read and give you points for all the sections in the narrative, plus whatever the CPPs are, that's what they see. Then separate to that, based off of your PE, based off of your APRs, and what you've earned on your PE points, then separately are added your scores, to the reader scores. Okay, usually by someone in the TRIO office, the program specialist, or somebody designated to do that. All right, maybe even a third party company to come and do that for them, but it's separate. So nobody knows you didn't meet your numbers. Nobody knows you didn't meet your objectives. Okay. All right, so let's see. We still have a couple of minutes left. Here's another question. You guys are really great with the questions today. Thank you. What are some ways to show sustainability if our institution can't guarantee long-term funding? Well, then you probably, I hate to say it, might rethink submitting, because you want to have, this is a question that we specifically get in some other proposals like Europe, where we do have to show how we will cover things, cover costs, or how we will continue the program. Because after Europe goes, it's supposed to be replaced by institutionally funded, or the community or the school district loves it so much that they're, what, oh, thank you for that seed money, now we're going to continue it. This is not, how we're set up to continue. So, but it's a conversation you need to have. That's why I say do the budget ASAP, do the budget, have that conversation. You don't want to get something started and then realize very quickly that you may run out of money in the first year. You may not be able to afford the first year again if you don't have any carryover on the in the proposal to show for it. Some people say, well, we always have carryover anyway, because not everyone, we don't keep everybody. In fact, I have a position open right now, probably 6 months. You can't say that in a proposal. So you've got to make it look like everybody's there at 100% time and effort, ready to start on day one. And if you're struggling to make it work with the first year budget, then this is where you've got to talk to somebody at your agency or your institution to say, how can we sustain this, and again, your institution can't guarantee the long-term funding. Heck, not everything's guaranteed at all right now anyway, but from your institution, I guess you maybe have had the conversation already internally where, y'all need to keep providing like you have in the past. And they're saying, well, I don't know if we can do that. Well, what if you could limp through the first year and get it refunded, then worry about it later. Okay. Or worry about it now. Okay, but definitely do that 5-year budget, see on paper. Sometimes when you show people, you can have a conversation, but then you put it in a spreadsheet and show me the money, or the lack of the money, so to speak. All of a sudden it's like, oh, and again, I've run into situations, I'll never reveal names, but I've run situations where I could tell where the client directly was not sharing the long-term budget with their applicant or their agency PIs, because I could just tell they didn't want to let them know, because I believe that they would say, well, if they knew, they might say, oh, well, we're not going to apply because we can't guarantee that. We don't want to have to, in the middle of a funding cycle, pull out, and tell the department, sorry, we can't do this. So I have a feeling that was not, because I was like, look, this is not, do they understand? Oh yeah, we told them that, this will cost about $50,000 a year to keep running. And I'm like, times 3 times, I was like, wow, I was like, I can't, and they weren't at the meetings or anything. So I just have a gut feeling that, and that's not, for whatever, you may not want to do that. You may want to be for real or document it and say crystal clear, this is what it looks like. But anyway, that's a tough question, but just letting you know, do that 5-year grant. Okay, so here we have, how do we justify staff salaries that are above what ED might consider typical? Great question. So in your budget section, when you do the personnel, and you notice, or I notice, the secretary there, because who's been there for 30 years, is making more money than the advisors because they've been there forever and a day. You just have to make sure, like, please note, the administrative assistant secretary is at this rate due to whatever the institutional policy is, because there's nothing you can do about it, but you don't want to ignore it. You do want to bring it to the reader's attention because they're going to pick up on it. Okay, and you want to justify it and say, basically, hey, I can't do anything about this. This is the institutional's policies and procedures. So, that's one of those things you can't control, but you do want to go ahead. And there's no really rate, but I know a reader could say, wow, that's super high. If you think it's gonna be high, remind them where you're at, what part of the country you're at. And that's person's longevity, I think, is tied into that. Also, that comes up a lot when we talk about the fringe benefit rates. We range from, some clients have 28%, which I can't believe is so super low to me, up to 73%. But we have to break it down. We have to show what percentage is. So, we say, please note, percentages are an institutional policy and are in line with other institutions or agencies in the area. Please see the detailed breakdown as to how the total fringe benefit percentages comes up to. Okay, so great questions here. Will you speak to writing the budget and personnel section when you have a director who's split between other programs? Should you write 100% director or write for the split? I've heard mixed feelings. Okay, yeah, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this, but I can tell you, so feelings, right? But let me tell you what to do here. If you're already split, this is the big deal. Great question. For any of you that are working on a proposal where you as the director, or you're writing where the director is already split right now, meaning 50%, 10%, 25% on the grant and on another program, and it's been approved, you must keep that the same. Okay, you must, in the new submission, whatever you have right now, do not revert going back to 100%. Do not, for so many reasons. Number one, if you put it at 100% and come up with this totally different budget, totally different your setup, meaning that the director's 100%, because you heard, oh, you're going to lose a point if you don't have 100% director, which is true. Okay, I would take a point off if you don't have 100% director. But right now, the only ways a lot of y'all can survive is being split. So don't revert to be 100% to lose a point, to not lose a point. And then when you get refunded, the department could refuse to let you split again. They can say, no, I approved you, just, you've been approved to be split. Now you put 100%. I'm not going to do that. And see, that used to be something we could do in the past. I am guilty of doing that when I was a full-time director and had 5 TRIO grants. I'd always put myself at 100% and then negotiate afterward. Well, guess what? Starting in, a couple of funding cycles, all of a sudden department caught on and said, no, you put 100% here. Sorry, 100%. So if I was still a director, that I would have written myself out of a job. I was like, well, I didn't mean it. I mean, I was just putting it there not to lose the point. You know how it is. You know how we've done all this time. I put 100% and then we negotiate. Said we don't have time. You were split, then you put yourself in to not be split. I ain't gonna do it. Now, some people were able to get it done, but I would not play that. I would stay split and go ahead and brace myself to lose a point. That's okay, because I've got prior experience points. Okay. What I don't want to do is lose 2 points for not having. Okay, so just be okay with losing a point, and you may not, but I'm just saying, if you're split right now, and I'm telling you to be split. Okay, no feelings there. That's what I'm telling you that's going to happen. You want to be, You want to stay split, so you don't have the headache afterward. Be okay with losing that point. But what you don't want to do is lose another point for not having somebody on staff on the project that has some managerial or supervisory duties when you're not there as a director. So they're acting director. So that means someone's got to be a coordinator, or you make one of the advisors a lead advisor. So you can say, however, the lead advisor will serve as acting director in the project director's absence. So now I don't take away 2 points. I just take away 1 point. But if you don't want to do that, or can't afford to bump up, a little bit of money and tweak the job description to include a couple of lines about being the manager or director with limited responsibilities and duties in lieu of the director's absence. If you don't want to go there, then be okay with losing 2 points. And you can come back and tell me, hey, guess what, Lisa? They didn't take any points away. Okay, good. All right, great for you. And now you don't have to deal with that headache of asking to go back to be split. Okay. All right. So, you want to make sure. So someone says, I did not lose a point when I said I was split last time. So yes, keep yourself. Yes. Someone said, I did not lose a point when I said I was split last time. So I should keep always, it doesn't matter if you did or you didn't lose a point, but I'm glad you didn't. But keep yourself split moving forward. Okay. Always. And worst case scenario, prepare yourself possibly to lose 1 point and possibly 2 points if you don't say someone on board. You want to make sure moving forward that you state that you have a lead advisor who will serve as the acting director with limited duties and responsibilities in the director's absence. Okay, that is 100%. So I guess what I should have said is someone else needs to be 100%. Okay, on the grant that has some limited supervisory duties and responsibilities in the director's absence. Okay, if you're going for 100%, okay, because if you're split, remember, you might lose a point and then that's all. You'll never get funded again if you're going for brand new funding. Okay, you don't have a choice. Well, you don't have a choice. You know what I'm saying? Go for 100%. You must go for 100% if you don't have a project in place right now. You must go for 100%. If you're existing, if you're split right now, you must stay split. Prepare to lose a point. Try to avoid losing a second point by making sure you have someone else who's 100% time and effort that does have some managerial supervisory duties and responsibilities. Because you don't want me reading it, because I would take points off. And if you put 100% director and you already were split, you're going to have a headache this time around trying to become split again. Okay, they might totally deny it, and then what are you going to do? Okay, so yeah, there's mixed feelings about it, but black and white advice, what to do. Okay, so thank you all so much. We've got a couple of minutes left. I don't know, Dawn, if you wanted to bring up anything, or I think you were right on top of putting everything in the link. Let me know, y'all, if you guys want to continue to do these things. Thanks for your questions. Maybe when we get closer to, well, this is the time to be working on it. I know we're working on it. We're budget and the data collection, and going back and forth, because you want to be able to give yourself some time, because don't be surprised that the second time you go through the data, it may not show any need at all, or maybe in some areas and not in other areas. You want to find that out now so you can troubleshoot. Go to our webpage so you could see if you maybe can't afford the proposal development or technical review services, but maybe you want to ask your agency or institution for some indirect funds to pay for someone to help you collect and review the data. You got everything else handled, okay, but it's the needs section that's if you lose points in the needs section, it's very, 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 very difficult to recover. And maybe if you're going for new funding, it could be that it should be that someone can let you know before you get too invested in time and effort, before you start promising or getting the target schools riled up and people excited about this program. Number one, see if you can afford it. Okay, that's the number one thing before you start inviting people to the party. Can you afford the party? And then, we want to invite these folks, these target schools. Well, what's their data? make sure you tell them this is all preliminary data collection, and that depending on, you know, the results, if they're showing need, that will indicate whether or not they're going to be a target school. So don't, you know, tell them automatically they're going to be target school, you know, in the grant if you haven't run the data yet. Okay, so let them know it's all a test right now. Okay, to see test run. Okay, thank you all so much. Thank you, Donna, as always. Y'all have a great week. Anything comes up, you can put your emails. Thank you, Diane. You can put your send us an email and ask us, or go to the group, right? That's free of charge. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much.